Every day, your fingers swipe across the screen about 300 times. Each stop, no more than 7 seconds. 300 choices, and every single one feels like it was yours to make. But there's a machine recording every single pause, every swipe away, every late-night replay, and then, using this data, figuring out what you want to see next before you even know it yourself. Your attention? Whose empire is it building? The answer begins with a report containing just 7 words. December 2016, Beijing, the cosmic center of Wudaokou, Kuaishou's product analysis team, was in a meeting. On the table lay an internal report studying a product called Douyin, a little project made by just over a dozen people under ByteDance, launched only a few months earlier. With monthly active users barely reaching 1 million, and almost nobody in the industry took it seriously, the report's conclusion was just 7 words: no danger, not important. Just outside the windows of this very conference room, Kuaishou's neon sign was glowing bright in the Wudaokou night sky a few months earlier. That same spot had displayed NetEase. Industry media were celebrating. The king of short video had been crowned. That year, Kuaishou had 60 million daily active users, making it China's 4th largest internet app by traffic, and not a single person believed the war wasn't over yet. That report would later be called the most expensive misjudgment in Chinese internet history. 3 years later, Douyin's daily active users surpassed 100 million. 5 years later, daily active users surpassed 600 million, and ByteDance became China's most profitable internet company, bar none, with net profits exceeding 10 cents. The world's most valuable unlisted unicorn, unshaken for consecutive years. Meanwhile, Kuaishou launched what they called the K3 campaign at their all-hands meeting, a do-or-die battle. Su Hua stood on stage and uttered those words that stuck in every employee's throat. Being a slow company has become our label, and this keeps us awake at night. This isn't a story about how hard work leads to success, nor is it a story about how everyone can ride the wave of opportunity in the right era. This is a story about how algorithms redistributed the world's attention. ByteDance started with a team of just over a dozen people, and armed with vertical short-form video, they upended the global entertainment industry, advertising industry, and e-commerce industry, one after another. From burning through 4 million a day to burning through 20 million a day, blasting TikTok's logo onto Dubai landmarks, into London subway stations, New York's Times Square. Under the US president's ban order, not retreating a single step, it survived. Welcome to the Soft Crash. I'm Fanko. Today, we're going to dive into the story of ByteDance. Let's start with these questions. How did a single vertical screen change the way information spreads across the entire world? And why did every single person who first invented the vertical screen format vanish, without exception, into history? How exactly does ByteDance's system of using algorithms to capture global attention actually work? 3. As Zhang Yiming quietly retreats, where does this algorithm-driven empire go next? Get ready. Let's begin. In 2011, a shot rang out on the west coast of America, and the short video era quietly began. But at the time, no one realized it. Not even the one who fired the first shot made it to the end. The product was called Vidi, and the concept was crystal clear. The mobile era had arrived, and people shouldn't be viewing the world through the old logic of landscape mode and long-form videos. So Vidi built a tool 15 seconds, with filters, shoot and share to Facebook and Instagram with one tap. Simple, direct, effective. The market responded immediately. Justin Bieber invested in it, Will Smith invested in it, and rap king Jay-Z invested in it too. In May 2012, Vidi completed a $30 million funding round at a valuation of $370 million. At the same time, Twitch's founder created a similar product called Social Cam, and the two companies began competing fiercely. The industry called this showdown the Instagram battle of the video space. However, neither side was able to finish this war because they both lost to the same enemy. Facebook set its sights on these two products and discovered that their user stickiness was eating away at its own traffic. Facebook made a quiet move. They cut off the API access, and the traffic that used to automatically sync to Facebook vanished overnight. Vidi was sold off for a mere $20 million in 2014 and shut down completely by year's end. The entire industry witnessed this way of dying for the first time. The traffic was borrowed, the platform belonged to someone else, and when that hand withdrew, you had nothing left. And Vine set off on its journey carrying this very lesson. In June 2012, three New York entrepreneurs, Dom Hoffman, Rus Yusupov, Colin Kroll, founded Vine, building it from the start as an independent platform that didn't rely on any external channels. Their logic was, we need our own users, our own content ecosystem, our own moat. The product was only 6 seconds long, looped automatically, with a square interface like a GIF with sound. The beta version launched, and Twitter founder Jack Dorsey immediately pulled out $30 million and bought it on the spot. Vine exploded globally, and the first generation of instant internet celebrities was born there. Ordinary people easily amassed millions of followers. That immersive magic is the exact predecessor of the immersive magic we feel today when scrolling through TikTok. Vine solved the platform dependency problem, but it also walked into an even deeper trap. In late 2015, Vine's 18 top creators held a secret meeting in Hollywood and presented the platform with a demand. Each would provide 12 pieces of original content per month, in exchange for $1.2 million in compensation per person, totaling $21 million. Dorsey turned them down, using the rationale that he doesn't negotiate with terrorists. These 18 people left en masse, taking their talents to Instagram and YouTube, draining the entire top-tier content ecosystem dry. Without top creators, retention rates among ordinary users plummeted. In 2016, Vine announced its closure. The entire industry witnessed for the first time a second way to die. Content ecosystems are built on the backs of creators, and if creators can't thrive, the platform is doomed to fail. In the very year Vine was heading toward its demise, on the other side of the globe, an even more critical breakthrough had quietly taken place. In 2013, 4 French university students started a company in a basement near the Gare de Lyon in Paris. The key figure was named Grégoire Henrion. They studied Vine, studied Instagram, wanting to create something even better. During their research, they discovered that the videos with the best viral performance on Vine were the ones with music. Even the most mundane footage, once paired with a melody, would immediately elevate the quality of the content by several notches. This discovery excited them, but copyright was a major issue. They couldn't afford licensed music until they discovered that every song in the iTunes store had a 30-second free preview clip, 30 seconds. That was enough. Then they made a decision that seemed almost insane. In 2013, switch the video to vertical orientation. 9:16. Filling the entire phone screen. This was practically heretical at the time. Movies, television, YouTube, all mainstream content formats were horizontal, with 16:9 being the sacred ratio. The media mocked them, experts criticized them, and the industry even invented a specific term for it: vertical video syndrome, watching with unfilled space on both sides. But Hung had his own judgment. When people checked their phones on the subway, While waiting in line or walking down the street, they hold their phones vertically. Turning your phone sideways is a usage cost that occurs billions of times a day, yet everyone overlooks it. Vertical screen is the most natural experience for mobile internet. In December 2013, Ang Leong demonstrated this product at the Paris Internet Conference Mindy. Investors in the audience immediately offered a $1.2 million angel round on the spot. That demo interface, vertical screen, full screen display, minimalist interaction, music-driven, almost identical to the TikTok you're scrolling through on your phone today. But Mindy never lived to see that future. In 2014, Apple, citing unauthorized use of the iTunes preview interface, removed Mindy from the App Store. Without music, the product's core experience collapsed instantly. The team was powerless to respond, and it withered away. Later acquired by Vine, it disappeared along with Vine in 2016. The vertical video format, however, remained in the industry, and the 4 French founders who first invented it never got to see the day it would change the world. However, the legacy left by Mindy had already drifted across the ocean in an unexpected way. In 2013, while Henrian was working on Mindy in his basement, China's Zhu Jun and Yang Luyu were in the United States, burning their meager $250,000 in startup capital bit by bit into an educational platform called Cicada, which offered short courses. The concept was sound teaching a skill through just a few minutes of video. This was during the height of online education's popularity, when Andrew Ng was conquering the world on Coursera. Knowledge payment was seen as a 100 to billion opportunity, but they stepped into the oldest trap. Learning goes against human nature. Users would open the app, glance at, "This lesson will teach you the 103rd knowledge point about tea ceremony," for 3 seconds, and vanish. 3 months later, only 8% remained in the account, roughly $20,000. Just when he was running out of ammunition and provisions, Zhu Jun boarded the Caltrain from San Francisco to Mountain View. The carriage was packed with American teenagers. He stared at these kids the entire journey and noticed a pattern. 50% of the kids were listening to music. 50% were taking photos and shooting videos. They turned on their phone speakers, blasting music directly, swaying their bodies in front of the camera, completely oblivious to the adults around them. At that moment, Zhu Jun understood something. What people truly wanted wasn't self-improvement in their spare moments, but self-expression in their spare moments. With the remaining $20,000, they spent a full 30 days building an entirely new product. In April 2014, Musical Lie officially launched. The product format was identical to Mindy vertical screen, music filling the entire screen. Mindy's co-founder later said that when they got their hands on Musical, they were really shocked. Everything was the same. Even the App Store description, the logo colors and gradients were identical. But Musical Lie had something Mindy didn't. A product team that spent enormous amounts of time studying users. Zhu Jun himself registered countless dummy accounts, sneaking into user groups to quietly ask, "Which feature do you like? Why did you disappear?" Through this almost obsessive user research, they changed the duration from 7 seconds to 15 seconds, transformed the product from a paintbrush into a canvas, not making you use it and leave, but making you stay, having people follow you and comment on you, becoming a part of this platform. The real breakthrough came from a feature borrowed from the German product Dub Smash lip syncing. Movie lines, popular song lyrics, anyone could move their lips in sync with the screen. The barrier to creation dropped to zero. Everyone could participate. In July 2015, the Don't Judge Me challenge went viral on Musical Lie exploded, deliberately looking ugly in the first few seconds. then with one swipe of the hand, instantly transforming it, went viral. Musical. Lie. Shot to #1 on the US App Store for the first time, with cumulative views approaching 1 billion. The first global influencer to emerge was baby Ariel, 14 years old, who started with lip-syncing and got featured by the platform. Her followers skyrocketed from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. She made the cover of Time magazine, landed on the Forbes influencer list, started releasing music and acting, ultimately accumulating 37 million followers. All of it started that afternoon when a 4-year-old girl opened her mouth in front of her phone. Zhu Jun called this letting those who get rich first lead those who come later, concentrating traffic on a batch of creators, making them popular first, so that newcomers could see role models. Only then could the entire ecosystem grow organically. This was a lesson Vine paid for with its life, and Musical. Lie took it seriously to heart. In 2017, Musical. Lie's registered users broke through 200 million, with monthly active users approaching 100 million, and 60% of users aged between 13 and 20, becoming one of the rare cases in Chinese internet history where a company successfully challenged and defeated local competitors on American soil. Just as Musical. Lie was celebrating its 200 million users, there was one company that studied these numbers over and over again. It studied how Vidi died, how Vine died, how Mindy died, studied every single growth curve of Musical. Lie. Then, armed with billions of dollars in ammunition, it quietly made its move. That company was called ByteDance. No one anticipated that the force capable of reshaping China's short video landscape would emerge from a place called Tiantongyuan. Tiantongyuan is a massive residential area outside Beijing's 5th Ring Road, with a permanent population exceeding 300,000. Transportation is inconvenient, facilities are ordinary, and there's nothing glamorous about it. It was here, in 2011, that a young man from Tiling, Liaoning, rented a room and started his business venture. His name was Cheng Yixiao. Cheng Yixiao is from Tiling, the same hometown as Zhao Benshan. From a young age, he was sharp-minded. In elementary school, he set up a comic book rental business right next to the school he'd get, borrowing cards, and then mark them up to rent to his classmates. At his peak, he had over 30 yuan in cash in his pocket, and at night he'd count it over and over, unable to sleep, terrified someone would steal it. He also loved writing. A novel he wrote in middle school actually got published, earning him 200 yuan in royalties. That was the first real money in his life that meant something to him. In 2007, Cheng Yixiao graduated from Northeastern University and joined Hewlett-Packard. In 2009, he switched jobs to Renren, working as an iPhone engineer. People who got into mobile internet back in 2009 were essentially standing at exactly the right moment in time. In 2011, he left Renren and moved to Tiantongyuan, where he used the experience he'd accumulated, created a small tool called GIF Kuaisho. It processed static images into GIFs. In that era, textile images were spreading like wildfire on Weibo. There were users, there was demand, and people were actually using the product. But Cheng Yixiao needed a technical co-founder. At this moment, Zhang Fei from Morningstar Ventures entered the scene and did something that, while not uncommon in China's venture capital history, was absolutely critical this time: making an introduction. Zhang Fei knew another person and said, "His name is Su Hua. He understands algorithms. You two should meet." Su Hua's life story had far more twists and turns than Cheng Yixiao's. He was born in 1982 inches, Songbai Town, Yongshun County, Shaanxi Tujia, and Miao Autonomous Prefecture in Hunan Province, an extremely remote place. When he was born, the village still had no electricity. To get to town from the village to buy soy sauce, you had to walk 2 hours on a dirt road. Later, when the family situation improved, they moved to the county town and bought a Subor learning machine. For most kids, the Subor was a gaming console, but what Suhua got was the legitimate version with programming software included. He actually opened it up and started learning. That was his first exposure to writing code. In 2001, Suhua was admitted to Tsinghua University's School of Software with excellent grades. In 2005, Google offered him an annual salary of 150,000 yuan. Back then, most fresh graduates hadn't even dreamed of making 100,000, so this figure left the entire dormitory speechless. Suhua's decision was even more jaw-dropping. He wasn't going to bother with his graduation certificate. He'd just start working right away. He later worked with Google in Silicon Valley for a year, witnessing the startup ecosystem there, which greatly broadened his horizons. In 2008, when the financial crisis hit, Suhua felt the timing was right and left Google to start his own business. He built a video advertising system but ran right into the financial crisis, and with a direction that leaned too heavily toward B2B, it didn't take off and ended in quiet failure. In 2009, he went back to Baidu, working as an architect for the Phoenix Nest system, with an annual salary already in the millions. But money was never the end goal for Suhua. In 2011, he left Baidu again for his second entrepreneurial venture, working on search engine-related business. Eventually, he sold the technology to Alibaba and made a modest profit, but it wasn't what you'd call successful. By this point, Suhua had worked on 33 projects, all of which had failed. Yet his algorithm capabilities had already reached the top tier in the industry. During that period, he was working as an algorithm consultant for several companies simultaneously. One of them was called Toutiao, and its head was Zhang Yiming. The two of them, that's when they met. At the same time, he was also an algorithm consultant for Kuaishou, who was equally his client. When Zhang Fei arranged for him to meet Cheng Yixiao, Suhua was actually already quite familiar with this product called GIF Kuaishou. He just hadn't considered betting his entire future on it. After evaluating Cheng Yixiao, Suhua made his decision to join. What made him feel the sincerity was Cheng Yixiao's generosity. Although Cheng Yixiao was the original founder of Kuaishou's technology, he voluntarily gave half of his shares to Suhua, and after factoring in Morningside Capital's 20%, Suhua ended up holding more shares than Cheng Yixiao himself. This kind of generosity is quite rare in startup circles. The two had a clear division of labor. Cheng Yixiao focused on the product, while Suhua served as CEO, handling strategy and external affairs. In 2014, GIF Kuaishou officially transformed into a short video platform, securing $10 million in investment from institutions including Sunway, DCM, and Sequoia. Kuaishou began. In the early days of its transformation, Kuaishou's content style matched what Cheng Yixiao had idealized: clean, urban, and full of everyday life. Back then, the most famous influencer on Kuaishou was called Ji Wang. The content he posted was something like this. He'd film a video teaching everyone little tips to prevent mosquito bites, speaking in a calm tone. The footage was clear. Some say that during that period, Kuaishou's style was actually more similar to today's Douyin. Then, in August 2014, one person's arrival changed everything. His name was Li Tianyou from Jinzhou, Liaoning. He dropped out of middle school and made his name on the YY platform through shouting rap, "I drink alone in my drunkenness," pairing lovers in pairs. "Two eyes follow each other alone. I only wish that one day we can return together as a pair." That was the legendary hit song on the YY platform in that era. Li Tianyou uploaded clips from his YY live streams to Kuaishou, and his account rapidly gained over 400,000 followers. His tone, his shouting style, and the entire northeastern Laote culture behind him, bringing along a whole wave of similar content that flooded into Kuaishou. Nobody had invited them, but they just showed up like that. From August to December 2014, in just 4 months, Kuaishou's daily active users skyrocketed from 500,000 to 10 million. This wasn't the result of Kuaishou's deliberate planning, but rather a generous gift that fate suddenly delivered. Standing before this gift, Kuaishou chose to embrace it. I'm just gonna be Laote. Laote it is. In the years that followed, mukbang, shouting mic performances, street skills, showing off, couple displays, and bizarre curiosities, all this content came flooding in like a tidal wave, and Kuaishou's user base skyrocketed in response. In 2015, Kuaishou became China's 4th largest app by traffic, trailing only WeChat, QQ, and Weibo. Pushing out Meipai, it became the undisputed king of the short video industry. In June 2016, on the rooftop of the Universe Center building in Wudaoku, NetEase's neon sign was taken down and replaced with the 2 characters, Kuaishou. Industry media was cheering. The king of short video had been crowned. But, just as Kuaishou reached its peak, fatal cracks were already quietly growing from within. First, at the team level. As China's 4th largest traffic app, Kuaishou had only 100 employees across the entire company by early 2017. At the same time, ByteDance had more people than that on any single product line. Although the 2 founders had clear division of responsibilities, the dual reporting mechanism made decision-making extremely inefficient. Both had to nod in agreement before anything could move forward. When they disagreed, things would just stall, and naturally, the pace slowed down. Second, on the data front, Kuaishou had no visual data platform. Product managers who wanted to view the company's core data had to write their own SQL queries and manually search the database. Company-wide A/B testing wasn't launched until 2018. What does that mean? Over at ByteDance, every single product change was backed by experimental data. At Kuaishou, they relied on gut feeling and experience. These were 2 completely different ways of competing. Then, at the decision-making level, Cheng Yixiao preferred 7-second videos, his reasoning being, a fish's memory only lasts 7 seconds. There was no data to back this up. It was purely his gut instinct, and nobody dared to challenge him. He insisted on using a dual-column feed, his reasoning being to give users the right to judge for themselves. They look at the thumbnail and then decide whether to click in or not. It sounds reasonable, but facing TikTok's overwhelming algorithm-driven full-screen feed, this insistence essentially handed the power of choice right over to the competitor. Finally, at the strategic level, in early 2017, just as Douyin was beginning to rise and the short video war was about to enter its most intense phase, Kuaishou publicly announced a new work schedule, 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., 5 days a week, no overtime unless absolutely necessary. At a moment when the enemy is sounding the charge, choosing to slow down yourself requires enormous confidence. And that kind of confidence was arrogance bred from Kuaishou's dominant position. At the end of 2016, Kuaishou prepared an internal analysis report on Douyin. The conclusion, as we mentioned in our introduction, was that it posed no danger and wasn't important. The report even included a supplementary note. Kuaishou users who installed Douyin actually showed increased engagement rates, proving that Douyin was helping Kuaishou, not competing with it. That report was filed away and then forgotten. Meanwhile, in 2017, Tencent led an investment round in Kuaishou with $350 million, led an investment round in Kuaishou, seemingly officially cementing the industry hierarchy. Everything looked like a coronation ceremony, where the outcome was already decided. But on the other side of that ceremony, there was a small team of just over a dozen people celebrating an early creator's birthday in a rented apartment with a cake on the table, holding up a sign engraved with the words, "Godfather of Chinese music short videos," completely serious-faced. That team was called Douyin. The birth of Douyin was actually a side project at ByteDance. In 2016, ByteDance simultaneously launched 3 products in the short video space: Jigua Video, which was positioned to compete with YouTube and Bilibili. The counterpart to Kuaishou was Huoshan Video, and the counterpart to Musical, Lai, the hottest app in Western markets, was a product called A-Me. How were the talent resources allocated to Huoshan? Kuaishou was the industry leader, so beating Kuaishou was the strategic priority. Everyone in the company, with even a bit of short video experience, was assigned to Huoshan. What about A-Me? A team of just over a dozen people, most of them fresh graduates and interns, and even the most senior among them all, was just one product lead who had come from Baidu Tieba, internally nicknamed Wan Wan. His real name was Ren Li Feng. There was also someone named Zhang Nan involved in this project. In 2013, she founded a photo community called Tuba, and after it was acquired by ByteDance, she joined the company along with it. She pulled together this small team and did one of the most fundamental things: changed the name from A-Me's name to something more memorable. Just 2 characters, Douyin, positioning it as a music-focused, short video social platform targeting Musical, Lai as its competitor. Back then, Zhang Yiming stopped attending even Douyin's monthly meetings. He didn't think this direction was all that important. Just let them do their own thing. Without fame, resources, or an experienced team, Douyin used a clumsy but effective method for its cold start: making friends with creators. When early creators had birthdays, they'd go celebrate and eat cake with them. When someone was unhappy with the product, they'd take them out for drinks, listening to feedback point by point and taking notes. There was a blogger from Canada called Teacher Shui who, during the beta testing phase, raised a whole bunch of criticisms about the product and even tore Douyin apart, saying it was worthless. The TikTok team wasn't upset at all. Instead, they threw a party specifically to invite him. They presented him with a plaque engraved with the words "Godfather of Chinese Music Short Videos" right there at the event. The plaque had no real practical value, but it delivered emotional value in spades. Teacher Shui became one of the platform's most loyal early promoters from that point on. Douyin did things like this countless times. Meanwhile, a quiet ambush was brewing between Douyin and Kuaishou. When creators uploaded short videos made with Douyin to Kuaishou, they would carry a clear Douyin watermark. Kuaishou found out and directly blocked the watermark detection mechanism. However, the Douyin team quickly came up with another solution: have creators cover themselves with Douyin stickers during live streams, and I mean literal, physical stickers, plastered all over them, just powering through it. Stickers were harder to detect than watermarks, and they actually generated more buzz. Many users who saw this bizarre scene actually made the words Douyin stick in their minds even more. But these were all just minor tactics. The real turning point came from an unexpected event. In March 2017, crosstalk comedian Yue Yunpeng reposted a video on Weibo from a Douyin creator who was impersonating him. This was completely Yue Yunpeng's spontaneous action, without any commercial collaboration. He simply thought this person's imitation was spot on and shared it for everyone to see. This post received 80,000 likes and over 5,000 shares, with the Douyin watermark clearly visible in the video. Douyin's official team immediately amplified this topic, and a wave of users flooded in to download the app. That blogger who imitated Yue Yunpeng saw his follower count explode overnight. Douyin tasted the sweetness of celebrity influence for the first time, and so they continued down this path. Hu Yanbin, Lu Han, Li Yifeng, Du Haitao, Yang Di. Celebrities joined one after another. An even bigger explosion came from a variety show called The Rap of China. Hip-hop was considered niche culture in China, but when the first season aired, it unexpectedly became a massive hit beyond everyone's expectations. The show's exclusive sponsor, Douyin. That's how it was discovered by tens of millions of young people for the very first time. After tasting success, Douyin covered almost all of Mango TV's top variety shows. Who's the Murderer? Here We Come, Chinese Restaurant, Happy Camp, Tomorrow's Children. Variety shows brought in traffic, traffic brought in creators, and creators retained users. But celebrities and variety shows were just the foot in the door. What kept users around for the long haul was something else entirely. At this point, ByteDance played its most crucial cards. The technical lead, Zhu Wenjia, came from Baidu Search, where he was a principal architect. Before joining Douyin, he was already one of the core pillars of ByteDance's algorithm team. After he joined, the recommendation system began its first truly significant technological leap. At the same time, Zhang Yiming brought in another person, Zhang Hongjiang. Zhang Hongjiang was a heavyweight at Microsoft Research Asia, and more importantly, Zhang Yiming's former boss during his time at Microsoft. While also being a partner at Source Code Capital, he connected with ByteDance through these multiple roles, and at a critical moment, brought in AI expert Ma Weiying to join the team, further refine the underlying architecture of the entire recommendation algorithm. After these three joined, they brought a concrete set of numbers. The 30-day user retention rate jumped from 8% to over 20%. Daily usage time increased to 40 minutes. From 8% to 20% might sound like just numbers, but for anyone who's ever built an app, the distance between these two figures is the line between life and death. From 8% to 20% meant that users were no longer disappearing after scrolling through for a day, but actually sticking around, still there, a month later. Another catalyst came from the outside: Oppo and Vivo. These two brands aggressively expanded distribution into third and fourth tier cities in 2017, and Douyin chose to partner with them through pre-installation deals. OV's user demographic was a perfect match for Douyin's target audience: young people who just bought a new phone and were looking for something fun to do, opening up the pre-installed apps on their devices. And once they started scrolling, they'd keep at it for an hour or two. The algorithm kept users hooked. While OV brought in the traffic with both legs moving in sync, Douyin's growth curve began to steepen. In May 2017, Douyin's daily active users reached the million level. This was the first milestone. Zhang Yiming looked at the data and made a decision: throw money at it. By October 2017, daily active users hit 14 million. 2 months later, through continued heavy spending, daily active users broke through 30 million. And what's amazing is, during all that spending, retention rates didn't drop, they actually went up. This proved users weren't bought with money, they were kept by the product itself. The money just accelerated the process. The real heavy artillery came during the 2018 Spring Festival. During the 2018 Spring Festival, Douyin brought in He Zhong, Jackson Wang, Deng Lun, Zhou Dongyu, Guan Xiaotong, Huang Xiaoming, Angela Baby, Li Yuchun, Dilraba Dilmurat, and over a dozen other top-tier celebrities for an on-the-hour blessings and red envelope giveaways campaign. The marketing budget was over 4 million yuan per day, burning through the entire Spring Festival holiday. When the holiday ended, Douyin's daily active users broke through 70 million. Zhang Yiming looked at the numbers and made another decision: increase the daily budget from 4 million to 20 million. Someone asked him, "Isn't 4 million enough?" His answer was just one sentence: "What are you thinking? 4 million enough to burn through? Now this feels right." In April 2018, Douyin's daily active users broke through 100 million. At that moment, Douyin became the third giant of China's mobile internet. Standing alongside WeChat and Weibo, even QQ had been surpassed by it. Meipai and Yuepai, those products once hailed as China's short video twin titans, had already vanished into history, long before Douyin's rise to dominance. The logo on top of the China building also quietly got an update. The 4 big characters for Toutiao on the building were taken down and replaced with ByteDance. Many people only learned the company's real name at that moment. Right at that moment, TikTok saw its first nationwide cultural phenomenon emerge: Silai. Silai. The original song came from Romania, titled Panama, and paired with a homegrown dance created on Douyin, it spread across the entire country. The original singer Mateo heard about this craze and flew all the way to China for a tour. As soon as he got off the plane, he saw fans at the airport performing this dance for him. He was completely baffled. This dance had nothing to do with his music video. There was no such move in his original version. TikTok had transformed a Romanian song into a purely made-in-China cultural phenomenon. This capability was later replicated repeatedly on a global scale. But what truly made the outside world realize that Douyin had become a behemoth was a semi-public head-on confrontation in May 2018. The whole thing started with an article. Media professional Pan Luan published a lengthy piece titled "Tencent Has No Dream," and Pony Ma himself responded to the criticism. Right at the height of this heated discussion, Zhang Yiming reposted another article titled "Who Says Tencent Has No Dreams?" with a caption, "Tencent is an extremely excellent company, and Pony Ma is the CEO I admire most." The gesture, quite graceful. However, a few days later, promotional materials from Douyin's collaboration with 7 museums were directly blocked on WeChat and couldn't be shared. Zhang Yiming held back for a few seconds, but couldn't contain himself. He posted on his WeChat Moments, "Congratulations to TikTok for ranking #1 in global App Store downloads." Then in the comments section, he added another line, "WeChat's blocking and Weixi's copying can't stop Douyin's momentum." Pony Ma stared at that comment and replied with 7 words, "This can be considered defamation." Zhang Yiming then responded, "The former isn't suitable for public discussion. As for the latter, our side has been notarizing Weixi's plagiarism all along. It's not that we lack evidence. I didn't want to get into a war of words, but I just couldn't hold back and vented a bit. Got criticized by PR for it. I'll send you the materials separately. You can look at them yourself." Pony Ma responded with a final remark. "Let's be fair here. You guys have too many of those too." A crowd of industry heavyweights including Zhu Xiaohu and Bao Fan watched this entire exchange unfold right there in that moment's post comment section. This screenshot later circulated widely throughout the industry, becoming one of the most famous public executive confrontations in Chinese internet history. From that day forward, ByteDance and Tencent officially entered a state of war. Douyin's external link sharing within WeChat became almost completely restricted. In this tug-of-war, both companies paid a price, but neither withdrew from the game. ByteDance had essentially secured the domestic battlefield. Daily active users surpassing 100 million, ads raking in money, going head-to-head with Tencent. All of this was sending Zhang Yiming a signal. It was time to set his sights on something bigger. That place was called the world. In the fall of 2014, Zhang Yiming set foot on American soil for the first time, visiting Facebook and Twitter. Walking through the hallways of those two world's largest social media companies, he noticed a detail. A considerable number of the phones employees were holding were Xiaomi devices. Chinese brands had already quietly gone global. In that moment, an idea took shape in Zhang Yiming's mind. After returning to China, he turned it into a strategic goal within 3 years. ByteDance's overseas users should account for 50% of its total user base. In 2014, this goal sounded like a pipe dream. At that time, Chinese internet companies going global had almost no successful precedents. Even investors would say, "You show us one example of a Chinese company successfully venturing overseas, we'll give you the money." Musical. Lai was one of the few exceptions, but even then, it was just getting started. Zhang Yiming's 50% target was more like embarking on a long march with a destination set, but no map to guide the way. But he set out anyway. The first attempt was an English version of Toutiao, initially called Newsmaster, later renamed Top Buzz. The plan was to transplant the domestic information feed algorithm to the United States and Europe. The logic sounded flawless. Toutiao had built hundreds of millions of daily active users in China through algorithmic recommendations, so why couldn't the same model be replicated globally? But they quickly discovered that the playbook from China simply didn't work overseas. Toutiao's rise to dominance hinged on two core strategies: ultra-low-cost pre-installation partnerships and a barrage of creative growth hacking tactics. When they went overseas, they couldn't secure pre-installation deals, so growth could only rely on buying traffic from Google and Facebook. Google and Facebook had a stranglehold on advertising inventory, with prices sky high. When money was spent, the lion's share went straight into the platform's pockets. The traffic conversion efficiency was extremely low. By the end of 2017, the executive in charge of this project left ByteDance, and the Top Buzz experiment came to an end. The industry barely noticed this failure because, on another front, a far more dramatic story was unfolding. That story was called TikTok. TikTok's first chosen market wasn't the United States, but Japan. The logic made sense. East Asian cultures were similar. The population was large, making it the most suitable starting ground for testing the overseas version. The team rented an office in Tokyo's Shibuya district and began local operations. But they quickly hit a cultural wall. Japanese users were extremely conservative, unaccustomed to filming themselves in videos, and even less accustomed to uploading such content online for strangers to see. Finding creators was difficult. Driving growth was difficult. The product was practically at a standstill. It wasn't until the team encountered Japanese celebrity Yuki Kinoshita and collaborated on a batch of content that they gradually broke through the impasse. At the same time, they also discovered a unique demand. Japanese users' enthusiasm for video filters and special effects far exceeded that of other markets. Appearance anxiety ran deep. It wasn't that people were unwilling to appear on camera, but rather they wanted to film themselves looking more beautiful and polished to perfection. After making product adjustments based on this discovery, TikTok finally began to gain a foothold in Japan. This experience in Japan brought Zhang Yiming a critical insight that later became TikTok's core strategy: globalize the product, content localization, product interface, user experience, recommendation logic, globally unified, no differentiation. But the content library for recommendations, marketing, and monetization, completely independent. Each country runs their own. During the cold start phase, they used a universal video library of cats and dogs, dancing beauties, and acrobatic performances content. that transcended language and cultural barriers to attract the first wave of users. Once they gained a foothold, they immediately switched to a localized content ecosystem, letting locals watch content made by locals. This approach proved successful time and again in virtually every market TikTok entered afterward. But TikTok's real strategic turning point came through an acquisition. In 2017, Musical Lie found itself trapped in a commercialization dilemma. Global registered users surpassed 200 million. Monthly active users approached 100 million. The product was well made, but it wasn't making money. Main revenue came from live streaming tips, with virtually no advertising. A reporter once surveyed 9 American advertising companies in the industry, and 6 of them didn't even know that Musical Lie could run ads. Meanwhile, ByteDance's advertising system had already matured, and Douyin's commercialization model had been refined and perfected, ready to be replicated for immediate monetization. The needs of both companies complemented each other perfectly. But the biggest obstacle in the negotiations wasn't Zhu Jun, it was Fu Sheng. Back then, Fu Sheng exchanged 5 million RMB for a 17.4% stake in Musical Ly, plus veto power. This veto power made him the key figure in this acquisition. When Zuckerberg came to negotiate, Fu Sheng turned him down. When Kuaishou's Su Hua presented his proposal, Fu Sheng didn't agree either. When it came to Zhang Yiming, Fu Sheng put forward a package deal. Musical could be sold. But you have to bundle 2 products from my Cheetah Mobile portfolio together: the news aggregation platform, News Republic, and the live streaming app, Live.me. Zhang Yiming met with Fu Sheng multiple times, back and forth at the coffee shop, and finally agreed $26.6 million to acquire News Republic, $50 million to invest in Live.me, plus $800 million to acquire Musical Lie itself. In total, paying nearly $150 million just to secure that veto power. But looking back, this extra $150 million might have been the best deal Zhang Yiming ever made. In August 2018, Musical Ly officially merged with TikTok, and all accounts and content were fully integrated. TikTok immediately undertook the first round of sweeping reforms to the product. They removed the trending charts and replaced the centralized distribution logic that made the hottest content even hotter. Completely replaced it with a recommendation algorithm. The push notifications each person received were no longer determined by editors, but entirely decided by the algorithm based on individual preferences. Just this one change alone doubled users' average daily time spent on the app. However, in the American market, TikTok encountered unexpected cultural resistance. Early on, TikTok was flooded with a subculture group called furries, people who dress up as animals and create all kinds of bizarre content, which mainstream American users found quite baffling, even off-putting. Plus, TikTok's ads came bombarding down from landmark buildings in major cities around the world, and this massive rollout actually triggered strong negative sentiment. During that period, mocking and roasting TikTok actually became a subculture in itself, the memes circulating online. They placed TikTok's icon right into the evolution sequence of Windows recycling bin icons. Throughout history, the message was crystal clear. TikTok, facing this mockery head-on, didn't retreat. The turning point came from 2 of the most unexpected people, Jimmy Fallon and Ellen DeGeneres. Jimmy, the highest-rated talk show host in America, spontaneously recommended TikTok to his audience on his show. With no commercial partnership whatsoever, just thought it was fun and told everyone to download it. Ellen's show also mentioned it, and when reporters asked Ellen afterward if she was sponsored, Ellen laughed and said, "If TikTok is willing to pay, I can say it again, these unintentional endorsements from 2 massive traffic sources brought the first real wave of mainstream downloads that broke through into the wider market. But what truly propelled TikTok's leap from fringe subculture to national-level platform was a song and a 19-year-old unemployed youth. In 2018, the blockbuster game Red Dead Redemption 2 was released, sparking a global cowboy craze. TikTok influencer Michael Pelsha danced the cowboy dance to a song called Old Town Road. The video went viral overnight, and tens of thousands of imitation versions flooded the platform. The song's creator, Lil Nas X, was at the time a 19-year-old black kid living in a cheap apartment, surviving by lying to his parents that he was in college. A 19-year-old black kid actually chasing his dreams. He found a country music sample online, spent $30 to buy the rights, then another $20 to rent a recording studio. All, in total, he spent $50 and created Old Town Road. The song then climbed to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, claiming the #1 spot, and stayed there for 19 weeks, breaking a world record that had stood for over 20 years and becoming the song that held the #1 position longest in 61 years, with physical sales comparable to Michael Jackson's classic masterpieces. What's even more bizarre is that when all of this happened, Lil Nas X hadn't even signed with a record label. It was just him, one computer, $50, rewrote the history of American pop music. From that moment on, the rules of the music industry completely changed. Whether a song could become a hit no longer depended on how big the record label was, but on whether it could be remembered, imitated, and spread. TikTok became one of the most powerful engines of pop culture in the world. In 2020, fate delivered TikTok another gift. The pandemic, global lockdowns, trapped people at home with nowhere to go. TikTok's monthly active users doubled in just 6 months, and Zhang Yiming immediately put forward a strategy. Leave no gaps, full suppression. In any country, in any app store, if a competitor surpasses TikTok, we must crush it within a week, at any cost. This playbook relied on ByteDance's strongest pillar, the user growth department, led by Zhao Qi, who the industry calls the person who spends money most aggressively in Chinese internet. By estimates, between 2018 and 2020, TikTok poured at least $10 billion into global markets. Yet beneath this fierce offensive, geopolitical forces tore open a breach. In June 2020, India, citing national security concerns, issued a ban that shut down all Chinese tech products. TikTok's over 200 million users in India vanished overnight. At the same time, the Trump administration in the United States began applying pressure, demanding that TikTok sell off its American operations or face shutdown. To deal with this crisis, ByteDance specifically brought in Kevin Mayer, the top executive of Disney's streaming business, to serve as TikTok's CEO. That person was originally a hot candidate to succeed as Disney's CEO, but at ByteDance, he only stayed for about 100 days. Political pressure kept escalating. The risks were completely uncontrollable. Mayer chose to leave. Inside TikTok, gloom hung over everything. Nobody knew what would happen next. Zhang Yiming employed a delaying tactic. He sued the federal government in court, repeatedly using legal means to postpone the execution of the ban, and held out until Trump's defeat at the end of 2020. The risk suddenly vanished. Mayer left too soon. In April 2021, Zhang Yiming made a carefully considered decision to invite Qiu Shouzi to serve as CEO of TikTok. This choice was almost a precise answer to all of TikTok's predicaments. Qiu Shouzi was Singaporean, of Chinese descent, fluent in English, with experience spanning Goldman Sachs, DST, and Xiaomi, highly internationalized, capable of seamless dialogue with Western political and business circles, while being deeply familiar with Chinese culture. and had been close friends with Zhang Yiming for many years. After that, TikTok's executive team became increasingly localized, with more and more foreign faces appearing in core positions. All these arrangements pointed to the same goal: to prove that TikTok was a company capable of operating independently on a global scale, not an extension of somewhere in Beijing. The war wasn't over, but TikTok had survived. Zhang Yiming shifted his focus from the global battlefield to a more intrinsic question: how should a giant continue to grow? In 2018, ByteDance became the world's most valuable unlisted unicorn, surpassing Uber's valuation and firmly claiming the #1 spot globally. That same year, the 4 large characters on top of the Toutiao building were taken down and replaced with ByteDance. The font stayed the same, the color stayed the same, but the meaning behind it had completely changed. Toutiao was no longer ByteDance's most important product. That position now belonged to Douyin. And Douyin's value wasn't just as a place to watch videos. It was a machine that made hundreds of millions of people willingly devote their time and attention every single day. And attention is the most expensive asset of this era. Zhang Yiming understood very clearly what this meant. If traffic isn't monetized, you're just standing still. So ByteDance began its most critical evolution, transforming Douyin from a place to watch videos into a place to sell things. The starting point of this idea was April 1st, 2020, when a guy named Luo Yonghao walked into a Douyin livestream room. Luo Yonghao, armed with the brand influence he'd built up over the years, launched his very first livestream sales session. That day's sales broke through 100 million yuan, and the entire e-commerce industry was stunned. After reviewing the data from that livestream, Zhang Yiming made a decision. Livestream e-commerce would immediately become the company's top priority. He separated the entire e-commerce business into a first-level department, reporting directly to him, independent from the Douyin system, building everything from scratch: products, payments, logistics, all of it. The results proved this was one of the most correct decisions ByteDance ever made. In 2022, Douyin e-commerce achieved $1 trillion in GMV. In 2024, $3.5 trillion, and it's projected to reach $4.2 to $4.5 trillion in 2025. Even more surprising is that shelf e-commerce, which many people weren't initially optimistic about, which is browsing and searching for products on Douyin, just like shopping on Taobao, by 2025 had already accounted for over 50% of Douyin's e-commerce GMV. People thought the e-commerce landscape was already set in stone, but the traffic black hole doesn't play by the rules. After e-commerce came local services. In 2018, Douyin started embedding group buying features into its product, and in 2022 officially launched Douyin Like, allowing restaurants and merchants to do content marketing directly on the platform. So when consumers scroll through and get interested, they can place orders right on the spot. By 2025, Douyin's local services GMV had reached 800 to 900 billion yuan, making it the second largest player in the industry, trailing only Meituan. The habit that used to be, "I want group deals, I'll open Meituan," is quietly shifting to, "Let me open Douyin and scroll to see if there are any discounts." Game live streaming was another gift from fate. The CEO of Douyin platform was arrested on drug-related charges, and a large number of top gaming streamers left the platform, with Douyin becoming the biggest beneficiary. In 2022, the wall between Tencent and ByteDance quietly loosened, as both sides shifted from confrontation to tacit openness. Honor of Kings, Peacekeeper Elite, and other blockbuster Tencent games were allowed to be live-streamed on Douyin. Douyin thus became China's largest game streaming platform. throwing Douyin and Huya into turmoil. Beyond these frontal battlegrounds, ByteDance was also quietly building a flanking position for its content empire on another piece of territory. Tomato Novel swept through the online literature market with its entirely free watch ads for reading access model, reaching 245 million monthly active users in 2025. Redfruit short dramas swept through the short drama industry with the same free-to-watch model, with MAU breaking through 240 million, becoming China's fourth largest video app, with daily active users surpassing both Bilibili and Xiaohongshu. Qishui Music's monthly active users reached 120 million, and by daily active users, it has already surpassed NetEase Cloud Music. ByteDance used traffic to buy time, used time to build stickiness, and used stickiness to generate advertising revenue. This flywheel spun up in every single content category. But this empire also had three dreams it couldn't make come true. The first dream was education. In 2020, ByteDance officially entered the arena under the Dali Education brand, recruiting a team of over 10,000 people, launching products like the Dali Smart Study Lamp, K-12, online tutoring, one-on-one foreign teacher services, and other products, covering virtually every vertical category in the education sector. They even brought in Chen Lin, an early core leader from Toutiao, to take the helm as the top executive. However, in 2021, when the double reduction policy was implemented, the after-school tutoring industry plunged into winter overnight. Dali Education consequently contracted, laying off employees and withdrawing from the market. The tens of thousands strong team vanished into thin air. The second dream was self-developed games. ByteDance spent a staggering $4 billion to acquire gaming company Moonton, at one point operating over a dozen studios with a workforce exceeding 3,000 people. However, in 2023, CEO Liang Rubo proactively announced a massive pullback, giving a reason that was remarkably blunt: high investment, long cycles, low certainty, and insufficient synergy with core capabilities. ByteDance has the traffic and can empower any gaming company it partners with. Why would it need to do the most time-consuming and money-burning part itself? The third dream was social networking. Duoshan, Feiliao, Party Island. ByteDance launched 3 social products, one after another, and all of them ended in complete failure. The logic isn't complicated. ByteDance's DNA is algorithms, and the mission of algorithms is to push content to the people most likely to enjoy it. The essence of social connection, however, is that emotional bond between people that simply can't be quantified by data. You can use algorithms to help people find the videos they love most, but you can't use algorithms to help people find their best friends. The algorithm's strength became its weakness here. Education, gaming, social networking, 3 grand dreams, like 3 mirrors, reflected the boundaries of this empire. It knew what it was capable of and gradually came to understand what it couldn't do. In November 2021, Zhang Yiming officially stepped down as CEO, handing the position to co-founder Liang Rubo, while he himself turned toward long-term strategy and exploration of new technologies. His era came to a quiet end. The empire continued to operate. The algorithm still determined what the next video would be for hundreds of millions of people around the world, every single second. It's just that the person who originally designed this machine was no longer in the driver's seat. There's a detail that many people don't know about. Around 2024, Douyin's messaging system launched a feature called Little Flame. If 2 users maintained daily conversations, a little flame would ignite between them. And if they went several days without talking, the flame would go out. This design had no tangible rewards whatsoever, Keeping the streak alive got you nothing, and letting it die didn't cost you anything either. It was just a flame, flickering in the chat window between two people. Yet, it was this little flame that pushed DAU, daily active users, past 100 million. This isn't a joke, it's the most precise footnote of this era. ByteDance, from that vertical screen format invented by 4 French students in Chapter 1, to now making hundreds of millions of people worldwide open the app daily for a virtual flame. What it has built is not just a product ecosystem, but rather a system that captures human behavioral inertia. How does this system operate? It doesn't listen to what you say. It only observes what you do. Every pause, every replay, every swipe away, every watch through. All these behavioral signals are feeding the algorithm in real time, helping it build a model of you, a model that understands you better than you understand yourself. It knows when you'll pause, knows which topics will make you silently scroll through 5 posts in a row without swiping away. It knows whether what you like to watch late at night is the same as what you watch during the day. Then, it uses this model to predict the next piece of content that will make you stay for 1 more second, feeding it to you with precision. This process is politically neutral and morally indifferent. It will push content that helps you learn knowledge to you, and it will also push content that makes you angry, anxious, and fearful to you, because anger and anxiety often generate longer viewing times than calmness does. It doesn't care whether you become smarter or more agitated after watching a video, it only cares whether you swipe to the next one. Zhang Yiming once said he was simply creating a tool to connect people with content. This statement is both factual and a veil. The tool itself is neutral, but when this tool is optimized to maximize how long people stay on it, when it runs on over 2 billion phones worldwide every single day, when it shapes how we perceive information, how we construct our understanding of the world, well, saying it's just a tool doesn't quite cut it anymore. ByteDance has proven one thing: as long as you capture enough of people's time, traffic can be turned into money, money can be turned into power, and power can be turned into an empire. This chain of logic is flawless, yet deeply alarming. In the end, let's try to answer the 3 questions we left at the beginning. First, how did a vertical screen change the way information spreads across the entire world? And why did those who first invented the vertical screen, why did every single one of them, without exception, disappear into history? The answer is, vertical video removed the last friction between attention and screen. It made consumption seamless, one hand, any posture, any scenario. Vidi discovered the short-form video format, but died from platform dependency. Vine discovered the value of a creator ecosystem, but died because it refused to nurture its creators. Mindy invented vertical video, but died from a single ban letter from Apple. Musical. Lie connected music with social interaction, but died from its inability to monetize. Every pioneer found the right piece of the puzzle, but didn't live to see the day the puzzle was completed. History doesn't reward the first to discover, it rewards the last one standing, the one who arrives carrying all the lessons of those who came before. That company is ByteDance. Second, how exactly does the logic behind ByteDance's algorithmic takeover of global attention actually work? The answer is, it transformed the behavioral data of billions of people into a machine capable of predicting human desires. When you scroll through videos, you're not choosing content, you're training a model about yourself, then letting that model make the next choice for you. This recommendation algorithm has no ideology, no values, only one goal: to keep you scrolling. It is the most efficient attention harvesting system humanity has ever built, and also the most profound behavioral intervention we never voted to accept. Third, As Zhang Yiming quietly retreats, where does this algorithm-driven empire go next? The answer is, nobody knows. Zhang Yiming built this machine with his own hands, and he's the only one who truly understands its boundaries. After his exit, the empire faced 3 new walls. The first was regulation. Every country's government wanted to control the content flowing into their nation. TikTok is negotiating with this wall by operating regionally and bringing in local executives. The second is AI video generation technology, is rewriting the logic of content production. Kuaishou's Kling model has already positioned itself in the top tier of global multimodal large models, but ByteDance's next card hasn't been revealed yet. The third hurdle is itself an empire built on algorithm-driven growth. When the algorithmic dividend hits its ceiling, when user time stops expanding infinitely, where is the next growth driver? This question has no answer, only time. But above all these macro narratives, there's one more thing, and it's about you. Every piece of content you scroll through each day, every pause, every swipe away, is training a model about you. And then this model makes the next choice for you. The freedom you feel might just be an illusion of freedom, meticulously crafted by the algorithm. That little flame figure, 100 million people open the app every day, not to learn something, not to buy something, just to keep a virtual flame from going out. Is this the algorithm's deepest insight into human nature? Or is it human nature's deepest dependence on the algorithm? At the beginning, we asked a question: whose empire is your attention building? Now, I want to rephrase that question. Tonight, you'll still lie in bed and open your phone. You'll still swipe 300 times, pause for 3 seconds on certain screens, and flick past others. The algorithm will remember those 3 seconds and push more of the same to you tomorrow. You'll feel like it understands you better and better. But if the end of the algorithm really is a person, is that person the you the algorithm wants you to become, or the you that you yourself want to become? Looking forward to seeing your answer in the comments. This is The Soft Crash. See you next time.